it's a hearing on an order approving a petition for a special law regarding an act concerning insurance benefits for surviving spouses. And we are joined here by my colleagues I don't know who got here first, so is there anyone claiming they got here first? So in order of how they arrived, my colleague to my left is City Councilor Tim McCarthy. My colleague to my right is City Council Matt O'Malley, and then my City Council to my far left, my colleague is City Council at Large Anissa Asabi George. And this matter was sponsored by me and referred to the Committee on Government Operations back on January the 11th. This would amend Mass General laws so that surviving spouses do not wait to remarry to have access to health insurance through the City of Boston. And joining us today, representing firefighters, is Local 718 President Rich Paris, and also joining him from Local 718 is Bob Teedy and Mark Riley. And we're also joined by Dave Sweeney, who's the CFO for the City of Boston. And so just to maybe get right into it, maybe just a quick snapshot from Local 718, from the firefighters, as to sort of why this issue is important, why we're here, and then we'll go right to Dave Sweeney with respect to sort of any cost-benefit analysis and/or number of individuals that could benefit from this this legislation.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Councilors, this has been a healthcare home rule petition that we've been working on for a while. And so prior to July 2000, any surviving spouse who remarried lost his or her pension. For example, the 9 firefighters we lost in the Hotel Vendôme basically couldn't remarry, or they would have lost their pension and their health care. And as JJ would say, how you tell your kids where to live in sin? You know, and a lot of those firefighters, 2 of them did get remarried out of the Vendôme. If it's 2 or 3, 2. Beckwith and Boucher. And so what happened is they repealed it by the legislators. July 1st, 2000, anybody that got remarried got their pension, not retroactive, but just as that day. And it was a big win. So, for example, if any of the guys dies of cancer, their spouse could get remarried. Okay, she kept the pension. So now, all of a sudden, their health care wasn't included in that. And that was brought up to our attention by a couple of our spouses that came down to Union Hall. They were very happy about, keeping their pension, but their health care. And a lot of these, it happens to this day where if a firefighter, a young firefighter dies with cancer, he's an active member, his wife and kids still don't have health care if she remarries, but she keeps the pension. A perfect example is Kristen Walsh. She's, in her early 40s, and she has 3 kids. If she, from 1st grade to 7th grade, if she remarried, she'd keep her pension, but I believe she wouldn't be able to keep her health care. I know she wouldn't be able to keep her health care under this law. So that's why we're here today. And there's, from our numbers, there's not many that are involved. And I just feel that it would take care of the spouses and the kids and their family. And here's I'm trying to think of questions coming up. If she remarried and has 3 kids and remarried someone that has health insurance, and he has, like the Brady Bunch, the Brady Bunch isn't covered. Just she and the 3 kids would be covered.
Mm-hmm.
So
the benefit doesn't flow to the new spouse and/or to the new spouse's children that didn't come from the marriage.
It doesn't come. No, it doesn't.
Right.
It's
and
just,
those children, the children from the marriage, till the age of 18.
18,
and then the surviving spouse continues with that coverage till his or her death.
Exactly.
Right. So there was sort of a punitive mechanism by which a spouse who chose to remarry or find a life partner and/or a father or a mother for existing children, they would choose not to marry for fear of losing the benefit, which was the health benefit for them or their kids.
Right. It was the fear of losing the pension before, but now still it's losing the health care, which is very important today.
Gotcha. And then so if we can just shift over to Dave Sweeney from the CFO, so I'm sure you've done some science or a little math behind this, and then want to sort of allude to whether or not it would apply. I know we're here dealing with spouses of firefighters that have died in line of duty or have been killed in line of duty or have died because of duty-related activities around heart and lung and cancer. But does this apply to firefighters and other city employees, I guess is another question would like to delve into. But you have the floor if you could just give us your thoughts on this particular legislation.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As you mentioned, I'm Dave Sweeney. I'm the Chief Financial Officer for the city, here to testify on behalf of the Walsh administration, which is supportive of providing comprehensive health insurance benefits for our employees, retirees, and families. As many of you know, we've been very successful in managing high-quality health benefits in the city, typically through negotiations of benefits with our Public Employee Committee, which is comprised of all of the city's unions, including Local 718. The city is supportive of the intent, as we understand it, of the home rule petition before you, and we're reviewing this and believe that there may need to be a couple of tweaks to modify to clarify the intent, but I'll go into a little more detail about our general thoughts on the proposal as we understand it. So the specific docket before us, as written, could be interpreted to cover spouses of firefighters potentially, but not police officers, but could also amend section 9B, which covers all employees. So that's the part that is causing me some confusion, but again, I believe that's something we could work out with Corporation Counsel and the attorneys for the union. In terms of impact, we don't have perfect information about the number of people who would be made eligible for health insurance under this bill, because we do not know the exact number of surviving spouses who would return to city health insurance. As was mentioned, there are also scenarios in which surviving spouses remarry and utilize their own health insurance or their new spouse's health insurance or government health insurance because they're retired or something like that. So it's very difficult to predict the behavior that this would induce, but we know that at a minimum, from what we've been told by Local 718, there are at least a handful affected of affected widows who are currently in this situation, based on them having had their pension eligibility restored in 2000, who remain in the city's pension system. But just to give a general sense, it costs about $6,500 to $6,600 on average for surviving spouses and their families for health insurance. This universe, even under the broadest interpretation of the language in front of you, the maximum universe would probably be about 100 people. And if we were to clarify that this were in the line of duty eligible employee spouses only, that number would probably shrink significantly. So just to clarify in a nutshell, the administration is very supportive of what we believe the intent to be. We want to work through our Corporation Counsel's office with the City Council and Local 718 to ensure that the language is perfected to carry out the intended purpose of the legislation.
That'd be great. And if I could just ask that Christine O'Donnell, who's the counsel for the City Council, she could be included in those. Of
course.
And then just shifting, Mark, so this home rule petition, we're dealing with Mass General Laws 32B, which is 9C and 9B. So to Dave Sweeney's point, C deals with firefighters. B, what's the section that deals with, what are the other sections? One I know deals with police, one deals with fire, and then one deals with regular employees, right? 9G. So 9G would be Boston police officers. 9C is Boston firefighters. What is EMS with the B or the C, or are they with the G, or are they not?
I know they're under Group 4 now, so they could be covered, under 9G.
9G.
But I know they're covered under Group 4, so
So I'd like to get clarity on
We
that
can-
through you, Dave, yeah, through
We
your.
can all figure that
Yeah,
out, I think.
so we can include EMS in sort of that, sort of the public safety piece of this, particularly in the line of duty stuff, and then dealing with 9B, to see sort of what that amounts to, so. Any other additional thoughts, Dave, before we put it out to questions? Okay, anything additional?
no.
Chris?
I just, we're just looking out for our spouses and the kids for their health benefits, It was a long fight for the pension, and we got that, and It's just you see some names here that they don't have health insurance now.
And for my colleagues and for those viewing at home, it's important to note that, so prior to July 1st of 2000, if there was a surviving spouse whose husband or wife was killed in the line of duty, that they died from injury sustained in the performance of the duty, they would actually lose their pension and their health care if he or she decided to remarry. So on July 1st of 2000, the Massachusetts legislature, they acknowledged this injustice and they repealed what they called the remarriage penalty.
Correct.
And they did so by reinstating the pension benefit portion of it, but not the health
Not the
benefit
healthcare.
portion of it. So we're here today to address the health benefit portion of it, allowing spouses, particularly those that don't have access to either purchasing their own or having a partner or haven't remarried, quite frankly, but that does, or remarry someone that doesn't have insurance. So, so that's it in a nutshell. But my colleagues, any questions of?
Just a couple. What would be considered pension eligible? 10 years? Is that into the system or?
That is, well,
Well, certainly not in the.
not in the fire
not in
department,
your,
not in
your
ours,
case, but general, so
general.
9, so it would be 9B employees?
If this were to be applied to 9B employees, that's a good question. I'll have to get back to you. I mean, generally, the way we interpret pension eligible is 20 years, but I'm not sure for these purposes if drawing a small pension would make it, would trigger eligibility for health insurance.
Any questions? Councilman O'Malley?
To say, Chairman, thank you for your leadership on this. I obviously support it wholeheartedly, and thank you to Dave and President Paris and your team for your eloquent testimony today. It seems to me that it's obviously a no-brainer to support the remaining spouses of our heroes who were killed in the line of duty. So, if I have this right, Mr. Chairman, the state partially repealed the pension part, but the state health portion isn't. Are you aware, or maybe anyone else aware of the state looking to sort of finish the job they started and addressing the health care and the insurance?
I feel that we're the big dogs in the fight.
Yeah.
So we're basically looking for this, and then it could go up to the state level down the road once they find out that, you know, it's covered here. And there are a lot of spouses out there that,
Sure.
you know, Toscano's, Joe Toscano, and I hate bringing names up, but it's the truth.
Yeah.
And, you know, Joe's wife is young, and she's got 5 kids.
Yep.
So she should keep the pension but lose the medical,
Yeah.
you know,
Which could be.
if she remarried.
Yeah,
Right.
absolutely. So should we pass this and it get to the State House and likely pass there, you think it'll start maybe that'll be the spark that can get the state to do the right thing?
Yeah, that's, I think so.
Yeah. And Dave, you said it's about $6,500 to $6,600 is the annual cost for health insurance for surviving spouses, and the universe would be less than 100 people.
Yeah, and again, that's only in the broadest interpretation, which I think we're trying to clarify the intent of who is covered. It's likely a lot fewer than 100 if it's only in the line of duty-related death families.
Yeah. And there's your support from the administration to extend this not only to firefighters, but every other city employee, be it public safety or otherwise.
I think that's what we want to clarify in terms of intent. So we did make the calculation of what it would cost in the interpretation of the broadest possible universe, which I think we and again, this is imperfect, but we found about 106 potential surviving spouses, which would be about $650,000 in additional annual costs. Obviously, if you segmented out the population so that it only applied to police or fire, police and fire, then that would be much smaller. So,
Bless you.
Okay. Well, again, I think if we're, and again, Mr. Chairman, thank you for your leadership on this. I think if there's the opportunity to fix this, we might as well fix it for everybody, recognizing it's such a rare thing, but nevertheless tragic thing that we want to show our support. So thank you. And thank you all, gentlemen.
Thank you, Councilor O'Malley. Chair recognizes City Councilor Anissa Rasabi George.
Thank you. I just want to lend my voice to the round of support for this. I think, you know, as a parent, and I think in most cases, we're talking about a surviving mother or female spouse, in most cases, of course. And of course, health insurance is the reason so many people simply go to work. So if we can provide that for our surviving spouses, I think that's an incredible gift, considering the loss that they would have faced in order to qualify for this benefit.
Thank
Thank
you,
you,
Counselor.
that's
It's also important to note that it's not, there's no retro part of this. It's everything sort of, I guess, is prospective. It's
Exactly.
If it passes, we're moving forward with it, so.
There was no retro on the pension either.
There was
when
none?
No, there wasn't. Because, I mean, some of them remarried in 69 and 81, and they were happy. Mike Milan called this lady, Mrs. Clarity. Her husband got killed in Trumbull Street, and she was so thankful. And how old was she? She was in her...
He just couldn't afford to keep up with the payments. He was destitute.
And she said to Mike, I just hit the number.
Just
You
hit
know
the
what I mean?
lottery.
I just hit the lottery. But I mean, imagine all those years,
That's terrible.
and I know,
And so he was deceased in 64. She had remarried, I think, in 69, correct? And then,
yeah.
yeah, I mean, that's the best terminology on it was a remarriage penalty, so
Oh, that's a home run.
yeah.
That's real. That was really big to him, you know.
Yeah, I grew up in my neighborhood. There was a family, wife and children that lost their dad in a fire, and the mother didn't remarry because she had all these small children. But she ended up finding a life partner, but still didn't remarry even with
Yeah.
the life partner because she would have lost the pension, the benefit part of it. So and it's just a stigma, and it's inappropriate. And
There's a couple in your
we're better than-
neighborhood,
yeah,
Mr.
I know.
Chairman.
I know them well. I grew up with their kids,
Yeah.
so it's
Yep.
So it's, this is an opportunity here to make it right with respect to the healthcare portion of it. It was obviously made right 17 years ago up the State House for the pension part of it, but it makes the most sense. And then to Councilor O'Malley's point too is that, and even Councilor McCarthy, we were just referencing it, he'll speak to it in terms of just make sure we're valuing
Right.
all of our city employees. Clearly, we love and respect our firefighters, but we also love and respect all of our city employees in the event of some incident happening or tragedy happening for any other public employee. It'd be important that the city stands by them as well. So any other thoughts, Councilor McCarthy, on that?
Oh, I just realized there's going to be, there'll be a lot more to this as we expand the universe, because, a public works guy or BTD, traffic enforcement officer is as important as anything else, and their lives are worth it as well. But I know that because of the heart and lung issues that firemen have, certainly the cancer bill, that's going to give a bigger scope, a broader scope for you. We'll have to have this discussion during our what am I trying to say here, Michael?
Committee hearing?
Working sessions. There we go. The working sessions. We'll have to have those discussions because clearly, if you're a traffic enforcement officer and you have cancer and you pass away, then this may not trigger that
It
clearly.
doesn't.
But if you get run over by a car while you're on Newbury Street, that's a whole different
But
story.
Marie Conley up in Meeting House Hill,
Right.
If her husband was going to remarry,
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, so it's going to be an interesting discussion with all the legal terms, but I think that certainly with CFO Sweeney's shop and your shop and us and I think we can get something done.
no, I know Dave and I have been talking too and working together on it. We're going to get our numbers. He's going to get and we'll work together on this, to make sure that it works.
So if there's anyone here wishing to offer public testimony, may do so now or forever hold your peace. Seeing and hearing no desire to do so, that'll conclude the public testimony portion of it. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank my colleagues for taking time to weigh in on this. It's pretty straightforward as it pertains to sort of the 9C portion of it, and opens the door to have a broader discussion about 9B and 9G. So we may want to reach out to our respective
Okay.
unions of those city employees, and then the commitment will be to Dave and his council to sort of work with you and your council,
Right.
and the council's council to either come up with some language here whereby we could pass something in a new draft and/or through a working session or through a committee report, get something on the books that eliminates that remarriage penalty. That's the important piece here that we're trying to solve an injustice here as it pertains and eliminate that remarriage penalty for spouses whose husbands or wives have died in the line of duty or have had a death in the course of their action. And in your instance, it's a little different because you have Section 100. Section 100 pertains to you, which is the heart and lung and the cancer portion of your benefits, but that does not pertain to everybody else. This is just a situation where there's a spouse dealing with a pension because of a line of duty or a killed in service type of incident where it's probably not as many people as we think, but it's just a good benefit to have and to do away with the remarriage penalty. So with that said, look forward to reconvening at some portion, and that will conclude this hearing on docket 0135, a hearing in order approving a special law regarding an act concerning insurance benefits for surviving spouses. The Committee on Government Operations is adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.